Welcome to another episode of the Career Keynotes podcast with Tincup and Gardiner, where William and Andrew chop it up with respected Silicon Valley talent acquisition and HR leaders to get the real story behind their career journeys, along with an insider's view of how companies engage with candidates. Let's face it, these days, finding the job, much less nailing down an interview, is not easy. This is a rare opportunity to learn firsthand what companies are looking for in a candidate and the best ways to engage with them. And now, here are William and Andrew.
And we're live. Well, hello, audience. Good to see you again. Hi, producer Bev. Hi, William. It's nice to see you. Happy Friday, everybody. And I'm very excited about today's guest. You may be able to see him, but I'm not going to introduce him just yet. Yeah, I think that's it. I think on the last couple of podcasts, very interested in any kind of feedback or questions from the audience about topics or questions we can ask our guests. And I think we'll just leave it there. So again, Career Keynotes, welcome to the show. Today's guest it's a real coup because he's a busy guy, and I've been asking, as I always say to Neal, you can run, but you're just going to get tired. And so I finally caught him, and so I'm super excited about our guest today. Welcome to the show, Neal Hardin.
Long-time listener, first-time caller. Thank you.
That's the crowd noise, bro. Okay, so Neal, I've had the pleasure of knowing you for many years, and I've followed the trajectory of your career, which is, and as you know, it's not easy to do in the talent acquisition space or HR space. Would you mind taking a few minutes and giving the audience some context as to who you are and kind of just the narrative, the real deal Neal narrative?
The real deal Neal. Neal, the real deal. Oh gosh. Got into recruiting in 97, and a long time ago, my sister pulled me in. I had gotten out of college with a double in management and marketing from UNC, and she wanted to start her own firm because she had been in a temporary staffing for about 8 years. And I said, I was in operations, trucking, logistics operations. And I said, yeah, I got a good thing going over here. I'll run the business. I'll be the back support. I'll do the finances, meet with the bankers, lawyers, all that fun stuff. And then about 6 months in, the business just took off. I mean, just really took off. And so I'll give you the Cliff Notes version because I know we don't have a lot of time here, but I ran it for 8 years. Met a mentor to me. He had been in staffing for about 40 years. And he showed me back in the day how to smile and dial, because that's all we had before LinkedIn. And I know everybody's like, what? There was something before LinkedIn? No, there wasn't. It was smiling and dialing. You had a phone book, you had a phone, and that's how you went through it, And
dot matrix printer and some note cards, possibly.
That's exactly. Rolodex. How about that?
What's a phone book?
What's this thing? What's this Rolodex? Who? What? Network? What? So did that for about 8 years. Was very fortunate at early 30s to sell it. Had a competitor one day come up to me and said, hey, let's merge. And I said, I'm done with this rat race. I want out of this staffing thing. But we were doing IT contract executive search. Those are the two, and it was more IT contract than anything. So sister was doing the temporary business. I got into tech. I love tech. I've been in tech, my ISA all the time, my whole career. And we had the opportunity to sell it. And so I did. And I literally was getting called, and this was in 2004. So 9/11 happened, the dot-com boom happened, got that. 9/11 happened. We built the business back up in 2004, sold it. And I am literally, Andrew doesn't know this story. I'm literally sitting in the Bahamas for almost 3 months. The beard's all growed out, and I'm trying to figure out, what do I want to do? I got a cash full of money, a pile full of money behind me, a little bit anyway. I had to pay off investors. Don't forget those guys. But I'm sitting here, I'm literally trying to figure out what I want to do. From coming out of trucking, I had some VCs in Raleigh, because I'm in North Carolina. So some VCs out of RTP called me up and they said, hey, we heard you're got this idea about trucking. And I said, I do. I said, we used to lose freight left and right, and I want to put an RFID tag on every piece of freight. And they said, well, we think UPS and FedEx is already doing that, but they're working on it. And they said, what are you going to need to do it? And I said, well, I just need a little bit of capital. So this is my first foray. And again, I'm East Coast. I'm not West Coast. I'm East Coast. And I always say, if I would have came out West, what would have happened in my career, right? And I had an opportunity with Cisco, but that's another story. And so I'm sitting there trying to figure out, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? Do I want to start this thing up? And they send me this contract, and it is like, I own 2%. And I'm going, wait a minute, it's my idea. I want to do this. It's going to be my company, and we can probably make it pretty big and sell it, right? And I was like, all right, that's going to be my foray into this thing. Well, didn't happen. And a really good friend of mine called me up and said, Bank of America outsourced all their regional recruiting, and they're going to pull it. It's only been outsourced for a year, and they've totally botched it. And so RPO way back in 2004, 2005, right? That was the term, and it's still a term now. And so me and two others were hired from the outside to come into B of A and rebuild their, we called it high volume staffing. And my group that I supported was about 30,000 hires a year. And so I was one of 6, if you want to call it, director levels. We all have VP titles. The bank's so goofy with their titles, right? We're all VP titled, but it was like a director pay. And so I did that for a couple of years, rebuilt it, created staffing, created sourcers there, had some really good learnings from there, because me and a couple of others, they did the smart thing by going after people who worked at agencies. And I say that because agency people are hustlers, and you eat what you kill, period. You're not a corporate recruiter where you sit back at a desk and wait for these recs to hit and wait for somebody to apply. You've got to go and find a client, and you've got to find people to staff it. That is your job. And so you can see I'm driven, and I don't rest on any type of laurels. And that is, and I know we'll probably get into that conversation as well later on, but me in a nutshell is early on agency, came into corporate, blew the model completely up, had the opportunity to go into another company, and really a boss that took care of me and showed me diversity. He gave me diversity. My last 2 years, I was in talent management, I was in HR, but I always kept coming back to TA, right? And I had TA. And that's when I kind of started learning workforce planning, and about 15 years ago started coupling the two, workforce planning, TA, together, because nobody could tell us how many do I need to hire and when do I need to hire them. That's what I want. And if somebody says I can give you a 12-month schedule on that, I'll call BS all day, because I haven't been able to get longer than 3 months in 15 years. It sounds great. And I'll put together an LRP. I'll put together a plan, a workforce plan that shows 3 years out with the LRP, long range planning. And still 3 months is about it. 4 months, maybe, if we're really tight. But so have moved from the East Coast to the West Coast, had many opportunities, lived in Europe, lived in India, lived in Asia. Like I said, I've been very fortunate through my career. And then here over the last 6 years, got in with a couple of HR leaders, and they just kind of kept pulling me. And I tried a couple of times, Andrew knows this, tried a couple of times to do the whole IPO thing. Didn't work on my behalf. It's worked for a lot of other folks, and congratulations to those of you. Worked really well. And you get in with a good boss, and you guys have, you have such a good rhythm. You like that, right? But then you also have to figure out, at some point, I got to grow. I got to continue going, right? And so, as you mentioned, Andrew, I've did this, and then it seems like I've done this, because at TA, look, I mean, in HR, you're rarely an SVP of TA, right? You're at the vice president. In order to get to another level, you've got to have more skills. You can't be a one-trick pony. And I've been fortunate enough over the last 10, 12 years to own, I haven't owned just TA in 12 years. So, and I just keep building the skill set, building the skill set, building the skill set.
You touched on so many great things. I'm going to let Will. No, but seriously, and thank you, because that was super helpful. And
by the way,
so,
today's Hat Friday, for those of you that don't know.
Okay.
On Fridays is my hoodie and Hat Friday. I instituted that when we went COVID. So
it's
Nice.
working. I
I
just
would-
want to. Oh, go ahead, William.
Sure.
There's so much there.
I know.
First of
We're
all,
gonna be
unwinding some of those acronyms he just rattled off.
We're going to be
RPO.
unpacking. We're going to be unpacking from the
Okay, go,
monologue.
William.
So, best career advice that you've ever been given?
So I was 33 when I became, and I hate titles. Trust me, those of you that know me really well, I hate titles. But when I became the VP of TA, the head of TA for the first time, I was about 33, 34 years old. And all my peers were in their late 40s, HRBPs, heads of talent management, right? Exec total rewards. And early on, my boss was great. He said, he used to call me Young William. And he was in his he was African-American, head of HR, Clark. I love the guy to death still. He was in his mid 50s. I was in my early 30s, and he used to say Young William, and that meant it was a coaching opportunity. Hey, Young William. And the best advice he gave me was stick to your roots, come in, light the world on. He goes, you've got a dynamic personality. He said, you can talk to anybody. You can make them feel at ease, or you can push them. And I do, even to this day, I push my peers and my teams. But he said, he goes, grab the low hanging fruit, but stick to who you are, right? Stick to who you are. And look, I know it. I'm East Coast aggressive, and I come out to the West Coast, and that doesn't fly too well. And so you got to figure out that style, right? And I've been very fortunate to have some bosses that I was a lot like, and they nurtured that drive. I'm not going to say aggression, but that drive to continue to be better, to continue to get things done. You've got initiatives, you got 6 initiatives, and it's going to take you 3 years to do it. We would do it in 11 months. That's drive, and it couldn't fail. So metrics, dashboards, reporting, your cadence, your project management, your program management, all of these things have to be rock solid in order to pull that many things off in a very short amount of time. Now, I was, again, very fortunate. Bosses coached me, developed me. I'm a 6 Sigma black belt. Didn't know what the heck that was 20 years ago. 2007, 6, I got my green belt. 2008, I got my black belt. And I'm like, all right, well, I already have a black belt in Taekwondo. And that was from when I was 16, 17. But what is this 6 Sigma thing, right? But again, that's where I came out of operations. And I love processes. I love efficiency. I love the data. I love the metrics. And that, again, led to be true to who you are, right? Don't try to be this other person over here. That's not who I am. And it works for them, doesn't work for me. You know, it's like I don't like. Sorry, I'm going to get some flack on this one. Don't like New England Patriots. Why don't we? Because they win all the time, or they used to. But Belichick is absolutely right. Do your job. Be the best at your job, and you're going to have 6, 7 titles, right? I mean, they're awesome. They really are awesome. And it's because of that cohesiveness, right? But they stick to who they are. Even though they don't have Brady anymore, they stick to who they are.
So listen, good answer to a good question. And I just want to go back, audience. So RPO stands for recruitment process outsourcing. I think you threw in RFID. I don't even know what that is. What's
Radio
RFID?
frequency identification.
Nice.
Tag, yeah, RFID.
LRP, long range planning, I'm guessing. Okay, so, but just a couple of takeaways, audience. So Neal, obviously you've been very successful. The one key takeaway for me is, and Bad William, you know this, is that Neal eats his own dog food, right? Is it me, or is it almost all the leaders that we do started an agency, started in the roots, got their, started at the bottom, worked their way up. Loved it. We might have to have you back on the show. I don't know how the sibling company thing took off so well, because I know mine didn't.
I fired her 3 times, but that's beside the point.
Okay,
she
but
still came back. She
the
still came back.
takeaway is willingness, desire to learn more. I don't know everything, but I'm willing to learn, and I want to learn, and I want to get better. I'm reading, I think it's Brian Tracy, No Excuses, and his thing is the can I, but constant and never ending improvement. And I've had the pleasure of watching you do that, which is why I'm so excited to have you on the show. Okay. So let's back up.
I kind of feel a little bit like Robin Williams. I love Robin Williams. I kind of feel a little bit like, I can go full blown Robin Williams too. So, but I won't.
Yeah, bring it, bro. We've only got 2 more hours, so I hope so we've asked a lot of the same questions, so I like a different approach. So you've got a big body of work, and you've covered a lot of ground, and you've been amply rewarded. And I frankly that's why I chase after you. I've watched you go like this. You don't
chase after me because I move from company to company to company pretty damn quick. That also, I keep everybody going.
What is his email balance? I don't understand what his email balance.
That's right. But my boss now is pretty smart. My boss now is pretty smart. She's locked me into a big deal, so I can't.
Neal, that's another good takeaway. Like, the good thing about people like you and audience, is find a winner and stick to them. Neal, it's not an accident or coincidence that Neal's been successful. Neal's been successful because he's delivered. And the bosses, when they go and their back's against the wall, who are you going to call? You're going to call Neal the real deal. I mean, why not? You don't have to be self-directed. He's going to get it done. And I think that transcends any job or any occupation or any endeavor. So that's a takeaway. So here's kind of a good question. Tell me, of that big body of work, what is one thing you know that you wish you didn't know?
Oh, geez. Of all the work that I've done.
And it doesn't have to be, we can open it up, but I'm sure something you've learned along the way, you're like, man.
In the last boss, so I talk about keep learning, don't rest on your laurels, right? Be true to who you are and be true to yourself from that standpoint. My last boss, I was his chief of staff. I ran TA. I created workforce planning from scratch. I pulled in people analytics. And I was like, they say complete right hand I was. And I was also the whisperer, because when my colleagues had any issues, they came to me, not because I was chief of staff, just because I could get through to the person. And it's a special way to do that. It really is. But we had such a tight connection. We're like brothers. We truly are. He's not that much older than me, but I mean, we're like brothers, and I love the guy to death. And I always will. There's 2 people in my career that I contribute to where I am right now, and he is definitely one of them, no question. And the thing that I wish I didn't know was, when you do certain things like this, you get pulled into certain types of meetings, and you are behind the cape. You see the wizard, and you see everything that's going on, and it's a lot of tough decisions that have to be made, and it's a burden. You're burdened with that knowledge. Now, us in HR, we have, we all under the umbrella of secrecy and privacy and, all of that kind of stuff, right? And you have to, especially like if an executive's getting replaced. I've replaced 2 CEOs in my time with my boss. I basically, when you talk about I've done every job, he's the head of HR at the time, he's the head of HR. We had to replace the CEO. I'm like an admin. I pull into a recruiting coordinator role, right? But the burden was, I knew we had to replace this person twice. And that was one. And it was working with the board, coordinating everything, right? That was one. And that was probably, the more and more opportunities you have within HR. Like I said, I was an HR partner. That's a lot of stuff, a lot of movement, a lot of talent management, a lot of talent development, a lot of org structures that you're going through. You have to be the conscience of the business. Lots of tough decisions have to be made. I respect that side. And I love playing both sides. Sometimes I don't mean to, but I kind of fall back into that. And I used to get yelled at a lot for, you're not the HR partner. Stop being the HR partner. Stick to what you are. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I used to hate that. I used to hate it when I got that. But I mean, as far as work goes, that's something. you're trusted at the highest levels and in a public company. And so, it's a burden, and sometimes I was like, man, I wish I didn't know this. I really do, because it was
It's
like, dead man walking,
yeah,
and you see the person there, and it's like, I mean, you just keep your head down, and I had a really good rapport with this person, really good. The other one, not so much. He was a jerk, but the other person was just a really good person, all around, solid leader, just didn't mesh with the board. You know, that was, I don't know if that's kind of a
That's a good,
softball, but I mean,
it's a
it's,
good answer.
I mean,
William,
I
you
can,
going to say something?
yeah, it's interesting, Neal. You're unpacking some of the dark crevices of HR, the pay inequities, the sexual
yep,
harassments,
The
investigation.
shadows.
shadows,
Yes,
yeah.
there is a lot there in HR. So let me ask you, and this will be a little meta. So to give you a little bit of a way to think back on your careers. What's top line? What's your work obituary say?
Ooh, wow. Ugh. Um, I'm not going to say man, I'll say
Yeah,
person,
William,
because
we got about 20 more minutes here.
I know,
Already
right? You're
going to the
getting really
event.
philosophical. You're getting really deep, man. Um,
Here
here's a
lies the real deal.
well, I was going to say, here lies the real deal. No, here's a person that you're gonna bleep this out, right? If I cuss, okay, good. Here's a person that did things his own way and continued to push the boundaries to get better. Me personally, my teams, my peers, I've always felt, and it's not that I'm a protagonist or anything like that. I love pushing my peers. I try to do it by, nobody can outwork me. I guarantee you nobody will outwork me, but work smart. That's my old college professor used to say, don't work hard, work smart, right? But I'm a hard worker too. It's my roots. It's how I came up. But I try to, let me lead the way by showing them, right? I got all these initiatives, they're done in 6 months. And they're like, what? And it still doesn't ring. So guess what? I got to poke the bear. I got to poke them. I got to poke them. And I do. And I poked my boss. I push my boss. I push my peers, because I don't want to be a part of a team that if I know such and such isn't pulling their weight, I got to pick it up. Somebody's got to pick it up, because ultimately, here's the real deal. Ultimately, my job is to protect my boss's ass, period. That is my job. And I have taken it from my last 4 bosses. I have done that. And I have done it with pride, because I knew if I could help them, they're going to keep me around, when push comes to shove and all the tough decisions and all the dark, nasty things that happen in HR happen, I'm going to get the nod, because one, I can be trusted. They'll know I'll do the right thing, and I'll do it with some sort of what's the word I'm looking for?
Nosh.
Dignity,
Yeah,
grace, integrity.
dignity.
Hey, that
So
was a really good question, Neal, and that's going to be one giant tombstone, bro. And the good news is we're not going to see it for another 100, 200 years. So,
knock
okay,
on wood.
but Neal, so a couple of takeaways for me, just to kind of restate what I heard you say is, first of all, your comment about HR, like everyone think, oh, the head of TA, like, or HR, it's like, oh no, there's a soft white underbelly that you never, and it is, I remember, you guys probably do, when Cadigan was on the show, he told me this one time we were playing tennis. He said, one of the things, it's just the hardest, it's a burden. He said, I would walk into the cafeteria and I would know that chick's husband's in rehab. I know
Yep.
that guy's battling stage 4 cancer. I know that gal's son was just murder. I mean, it was just like, and by the way, you can't talk about it. You just got to carry it around. That's a very good answer. So there's that. And also what I took the takeaway, and I know this, but I just want to restate it for the audience. It sounds glamorous, like, oh yeah, I get to decide everybody, but no, you don't want to decide. Sometimes you just want to suit up and show up, and
That's
there's
right.
nowhere to hide. The numbers, to your point, the numbers don't lie, and the buck stops with you. And I think, and I'm not going to tell you why you're successful. That's my question. what do you think, aside from the knit and the grit and the commitment to excellence and the drive and the willingness to go above and beyond, that again, that transcends everything. What do you think? Because you're a very good leader. I've noticed that people listen to you, whether they want to, and not in a mean way, but because if you're doing it, they have to do it. There's nowhere to hide. But to the same token, I've noticed that people want to follow you and they want to do. So what do you attribute your success as a leader? What are some of the qualities that you think, and less obvious ones than,
Yep.
giving everybody a ton of dough or whatever?
No, yeah. I mean, it's like I said, two bosses in my time they really took care of me and gave me the coaching and development. And it's one boss when I worked my way through college. I worked at a trucking company on the dock, 120 degrees in the trailer in the summer times, 130 degrees in the trailer in summer times, and it was really cold in the winter times in North Carolina. And my old terminal manager, Marty, used to say, surround yourself with good people and good things will happen. Well, my boss, Clark, that really started developing my career was like, okay, yes, but show an interest, give them what they need, which is the development they need, the one-on-one time, and they'll follow you. I've got people that's worked for me 5, 6, 7 times. I do keep pulling them, and I do for a reason. Not one because I know I can turn them. If I got a lot of stuff to get done in a short amount of time, I need some folks with me that I can just release the Kraken. The guy just drop in. They can get it done. Guess what? I got 6 things to do. That's one I don't have to worry about because I've worked with this person. I've developed them. They know my style. They know my cadence. They know what I want to see, and I can trust them. It's like a great book. If y'all please read this book. General Stanley McChrystal, Team of Teams. Love the book. It talks about, and he's got several more, and he's got a consulting business now. My whole family's military. I wasn't because at the 18 years old, I had a heart murmur and they wouldn't let me in for whatever reason. Then it went away for 20 some years. And then I turned over 40 and bam, it came back. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Really? And it's gone now. I don't have it right now, but it could come back. I don't know. But my whole family's military. And so Dad was a Marine. Yeah, that's where a lot of this drive comes from. It's, but the things that I take a personal pride in all the people that work for me. Like I had the recruiting coordinators, for instance, they all reported to me for the last couple of months. And we had performance discussions. We had bonus discussions that we had to talk about. Who did it? Did I pass the buck to somebody else just because one of my team left? No, I did it. And I took the time and talked to every single one of them about what they want to do next. Recruiting coordinator, you can go anywhere. You can go into HR, you can go into operations, you can go into a recruiter role. Where do you analyst, where do you want to see? And I love the question, but I hate the question. Where do you see yourself in 3 years? What do you want to do with your life, right? But I take the time to get to know my people. The very first thing I do when I come into an organization is I meet everybody. I mean, any of my directs, but all the team. In the US, over 50 some people, met every single one of them for all the different groups, right? Of course, I have to get to Philippines, I have to get to India, I have to get to Europe, I have to get to Asia, right? But I met every single person within my first 30 days because I need to know who do I have, what do I have to work with, And so, and I told them when I first started this job, and I told them most recently, I've had several, I've got a couple that I use as my case study. And I say it all the time, she came to me and she wasn't sure. I put her in a couple of different roles and she's flourished. She said she thought she wanted to be an analyst. Now she wants to go into project management. And I'm like, awesome. She wouldn't have known that had I not given her the opportunity, right? At the former bank name that I used to work for, if you never got that opportunity ever, it was purely, you're not doing your job, you're gone, because we got 350,000 people. We'll bring in the next person. That was the one thing that really pissed me off, about corporate America, that they didn't eat their own dog food. I eat my own dog food. I do. I love my people. I love my teams.
When I came to visit you at your current place of employ, well, first of all, they brought you in. I always say this, they didn't bring you in because it was going great. And you hadn't been there more than 2 or 3 weeks and you invited me in You knew, I mean, we all we did was go for first thing you said is, geez, for goodness sake, and I think you might have used different words. You go, dude, I heard you from the third floor in the breezeway, number one. But on the walk from the reception desk to the conference room, you must have said hello by name to like 15 people. And I was like, wow, either you've just been walking around for the first 2 weeks and talking to people, or you're a wizard. So anyways, I can attest to that. I'd love to hear from producer Bev. She's got that. I have a question.
Uh-oh. Yep.
Okay, well, first I want to say that I love Neal, the real deal. It makes me want to break out in some freestyle, make you a whole poem about that. A lot of our guests have referred to the very early days of recruiting with smile and dial, and I get it. What would you call it now?
The early days, the days now of Smile and Dial LinkedIn. Oh, let me just get a LinkedIn. Oh, let me just get a LinkedIn. That was our tool. Now you've got AI. Now you've got, I mean, there are tons of tools out there with AI, and they're getting better, right? I mean, you're using artificial intelligence. They're using the algorithms to really hone in on things. I don't want to drop any company names because I may or may not be using them, but certain companies, we're going after diversity, right? How do you look at diverse talent? How do you build up that pipeline? How do you look at this particular skill set? The tools are getting better, but as I say, don't just, I've told my team, we went from a COVID standpoint, our Q1 and Q2 was a little bit slower than it is right now. Q3 and Q4 are kind of up, and they're almost up double. But during that slow time, I told my teams, right now you should be pipelining. So we're not just sitting at home. I mean, come on, I'm looking at reports. I want to see them working. I want to look at the LinkedIn. I want to look at the other tools that I have, right? But to your answer, Bev, the smile and dial is basically LinkedIn. Let me get on LinkedIn. Let me do a search. But you look at the things that are not searching that much. They're really not. And it's like, we're making hires, or we're making good hires. So let's keep looking at the metrics. Let's keep diving into this. Let's keep looking at their pipelines. Show me your pipeline report. Let's go through these things, right? Oh, pick up the phone. I used to do this a long time ago. I've stopped it. I would call you. Andrew, you're a recruiter for me. I would call you and say, sell me.
Nice.
Sell me right now. Sell me. And I used to do that all the time.
Money.
And I stopped doing that probably about, I don't know. Again, somebody once told me, they said, you've got more knowledge in that head than you probably forgot more about everything that I know about. And I'm like, I probably do. My memory's bad these days, but that just hit it. I was like, my team's going to be hating me now because I'll be like picking up the phone, calling, like, sell me.
The energy's good, bro. You're irrepressible, and that's it's going to again serve you well in anything. Okay, William, do you have?
Sure.
I think we should probably pivot, but do you have another question?
I have
question. Watch
yes,
out.
As we pivot, I have 3 questions, but we'll start with one. So you've seen a ton of recs come across your desk in one form or fashion. What's your bid at this stage in your career? How do you train both hiring managers and young recruiters, sourcers to kind of get on the same page and to make sure that the rec is actually what the person wants?
Yeah, the thing I don't like is we're going back, having a third meeting with the hiring manager, right? Because they didn't listen. And it's 101 stuff. It's no different. You have a notepad. You have a notepad on, and you write things down on that. It's your intake form, your intake sheet. We call them many different things, right? But here are the things that you have to get done from our side of things before you open the rec or before they open the rec. Yeah. The one thing you can't get, and I teach this all the time, I talk about this all the time, is that dynamic, that team dynamic between everybody, right? And the only way you can do that is to be in their meetings. Don't just be a talent advisor. And the only way you can be a talent advisor versus a recruiter is what? Getting into the meetings. See the dynamic between William, Andrew, and Bev, producer Bev. See the dynamic. And what's it going to mean? I'll bring the skill set, but the final piece I don't know is that culture, that not the culture for the company, but that culture within the subculture, right? The culture within the culture, the team dynamic. Can I get that? And that's what I see a lot of younger recruiters, newer recruiters. Sorry, That's the mistakes I see them making. They don't get in there, nor their bosses, the managers or the directors or leads, team leads, however you call them. They're not pushing them for that. Get in there, meet your clients, talk to them, get in there with their team meetings. They'll let you in. Trust me, they'll let you in because you're helping them. You're supporting them. They want to know. And some people may go, oh, I can't be in there because I didn't, my rec count was so high, I didn't get a chance to do a lot of sourcing this week. Excuses. Button it up, tighten the ship, get in there. Don't rest on your laurels. Don't rest on the companies, right? Get in there and do your damn job.
Wow. Okay. William, you got a follow up for that or?
No. Go ahead. Just on the
Okay,
other
so
side.
Neal, one of the purposes of the show is, and you've done a great job thus far on the TA side. By the way, HRBP is Human Resources Business Partner, and I have a million. We're just going to have you back on the show, but we need to pivot because we're already 30 minutes in, according to producer Rev. So, actually, I do have one more question. What is something you've been very successful, clearly, and not just by my opinion, as evidenced by the body of your work. What is something you think that really holds a TA leader back? Just one thing. You don't have to build a piano. Just what are the one or two things that you see, because you've made some very salient observations about processes and styles. But what are a couple of things that you see, or that maybe held you back? Because to your point, you're a perpetual learner. You're always, everything I know I learned, and you are a sponge, and you are a busy guy. You do eat your own dog food. You are doing 12 things at once pretty well. But what are a couple of things that you think hold people back in your role?
Oh, number one, numero uno, and this is from being at many different companies, either as a consultant or coming in full time. Knowing the data, you gotta have a story. Be a good storyteller. The only way you can be a good storyteller is what? Knowing the data. You gotta have the data, people. Get your data. If it's muck, get it cleaned, but consistently measure the muck. You can still work with muck. Consistently measure the muck, and then measure the ratios in between those. That way you'll know you're performing or not. But we try to get to that. That's one of the first things I do is coming into an organization is I really want to get a good foothold on the data. And I would say that I've seen that hold people back. Number two, my current boss, Lori, talks about this all the time. As a senior director, as a leader, as an executive, executives are directors and above, but as a senior director, you have an opinion, voice it. That's the second thing I will see get in trouble. You're at a leadership team, whether you're in the HRLT or you're just a ring below the HRLT, don't just raise up all the problems and issues. Give a solution too, right? Give your opinion. If you're going to shoot off at the mouth, shoot off about something that you know, but also give a solution. Don't just sit there and throw stones, at a glass house and sit there and, you got to give a solution, people. So the data is number one that I see that gets people in trouble. They don't know the data, and the business I literally, when I first came in, an SVP here, he's got a little, not much more experience than I have, but he's got a little bit more experience, and he's been in the business. He's really good at what he does, or was. We let him go. Or sometime he let him go. We got into an argument about my data for him. It's his data, but it's my data. And I sat there and I went, all right, let's go. And it was a one-on-one. It was a one-on-one session. And we sat there and went at each other. And I haven't done that in 10 years. He was blue in the face, screaming and yelling at me that I was wrong. And at the end of the day, weathered it. And I just kept beating him down. And I looked at him and I said, all right, where? Show me where. You're throwing rocks at my glass house on the data. Show me where the problem is. So that being said, know the data, definitely know the data. But if you're also know that you're in a leader role and you have to act like a leader. Sometimes my mouth gets the better of me. I know it does. Some people,
no.
East Coast,
the East Coast,
the East Coast, the F-bombs can fly, and that's not a problem. On the West Coast, a little bit different. Some people don't like that, and it's like, I apologize. I'm sorry. Know that I'm cussing at me more than you.
Exactly. You know what, Neal, I got to stop you there because first of all, two things. One is that those are good answers. And number two is, you're very passionate and you're very colorful and you believe in it. And the other thing is, so you got to break a few eggs if you want to make an omelet. If you do,
Absolutely.
if you were going to bring, here's what I've noticed, and I'd love William or Neal, you to dip in here, and producer Bev. When they bring you in, they're not bringing you in because it's going great. So, but some companies want someone to just go, oh yeah, okay, sure, that's great. And nothing changes if nothing changes. Yeah. So the willingness to go over and mix it up, and the other thing you said, the data doesn't lie, Neal. People lie, but data doesn't. So
data don't.
Okay, we're
right,
gonna pivot, and it's a perfect time because you've done a really good job of, on the show, as you know, one of the real impacts we want to make is helping candidates. You're gonna, like you said, you're gonna forget more about how companies. 30,000 recs when you were 37 years old or 32.
I did 100,000 recs at 1 year, Andrew, for 5 years. Jeez.
So that's a lot of interviews and a lot of hiring. So you know what you're talking about. And one of the things, and you've done a good job of it so far, is demystifying, pulling back the veil. When people know that there's a Neal on the other end of the equation, or the email or the voicemail or the job rec, that's very comforting. Like, now I know what. So to that end, we've got a lot of people on the show, and there's been some debate about, okay, the do's and the don'ts and what should you do. I personally have a lot of compassion, as do you, for the underdog, the person that may have the desire, may have the ability, but doesn't have the confidence, the wherewithal, the chops. So that's a separate conversation. So can you give us some action? What are some things that just come to you just as a place to begin, ideally above and beyond the blocking and the tackling, for someone that's either new to the job market, wants to transition, is struggling with getting attention? And maybe a good place to start, Neal, and again, go quick because we don't have a lot of time, but all right. Just the whole ATS and how your resume gets processed and who sees it and how to get attention and get noticed.
I used to tell this to college students, the graduating students I used to meet with when I would go and visit. The thing about it is, build your network early. And that sounds so easy, right? But in the 20 some years I've been doing this, the reason I don't have to go and apply for a job anymore is because my network is so strong, and Andrew knows this, that all I do is make a couple of calls and, hey, here's an opening, go and interview, and all right, here we go, we got an offer coming, right? The only reason I can do that is because of people like Andrew, people like that I've networked with for over 10, 20 years in some cases, right? Come out of school, build your network up. I literally just had a young lady get her MBA, and she sent me a note through LinkedIn. And every time I get this every now and then, believe it or not, I don't get a lot of these. I really don't. And I love it when they come straight to me, but she said, Mr. Hardin, really wanting to get into recruiting, love to take 5 minutes of your time. I will move and Andrew knows my calendar. I will move mountains. And I had a coffee with that young lady this morning. I mean, at 7 o'clock Pacific, I'm having coffee with her, just like this right here. We're both drinking coffee, and I'm like, this is great, And I do get more of those now than I have in the past, or than I used to, but still not as many as you would think. That's number one.
Well, your ships come in because we've got 12 million subscribers, and we're going to ask how do people get in touch with you. So, okay, that's good. But that's, I happen to agree with you, because it's all, we're all four of us are, hey, my sister's nanny brother is thinking, would you? Of course I will. Give him my number, but don't do it for him. Make just what you said. Make him do it. I can coach him up in the process of helping him. So
I'm not going to reach out to them. They need to call me. They need to take the initiative. They need to show the drive. One thing that I look for in people, tenacity. You got to be tenacious, especially in recruiting. You got to have some chops, right? So definitely have tenacity, but build your network as much as you can. Reach out. The people that you're reaching out to today, they will help you later on. But guess what? Don't make it one-way door. You got to be reciprocal, right? Andrew, I call Andrew. Andrew, I need a favor. Guess what? I owe him, and I I'm here on the podcast.
Yeah. No, you're listen, and you're right. And I love, that's a good point. It's not like, hey, what
Quid
the
pro
good
quo.
thing about me is I'm always there when I need you. And I learned
Yep.
a little too late in life, hey, but how about being there when you don't need me? And what can I do for you? And so
That's right.
it is a reap and sow kind of environment. Okay, William, I see you
So
ready for.
yeah.
Sorry to take up so much time.
No. We're doing great. And there's a lot of great things that people are going to take away from the show. The last two questions I have are going to be candidate centric. And I want you to anonymize this one. So the most awkward hiring manager and candidate story that you can think of.
Most awkward. Oh man.
Yeah,
I
where do
gotta go back
you
to my
start
early
alphabetically?
days. I know. I haven't seen so much over the last 10 years, but I can tell you back in the late 90s, early 2000s, because I had my own agency, right? I had a guy literally go through a wall in my room. Like he got so mad. I was interviewing him, and I'm not that big anymore. I'm only 200 pounds. Back then I was about 260 and only about 8% body fat. So I was a pretty big boy. And
Send us a picture that we can put in the description. Okay, go ahead.
Oh my gosh, y'all are freak if you see some of them. So this guy literally got so upset with me because I told him he didn't have the right skill set. He screamed at the top of his lungs, and he literally ran through my wall. Now he picked, and I know this because my brother's in commercial construction and I helped build my walls. We in the East Coast, we use metal studs, and he picked it. It wasn't 16 inches. I think this one was about 20 inches apart, but he picked it perfectly and went straight through both sheetrocks and did not hit the stud. I don't know how he did it, but he went straight through both sheetrock. And I'm like, my mouth just like, what just happened? I was like, dude, come back. I want you. Come back right now. I'm chasing him in his car. I'm like driving after him. Come here.
Good for you.
But that was pretty crazy. That was pretty
story.
Crazy right there.
Was it like a
literally ran
print, like his body, like on the movies where
like in the cartoons?
Yeah, that's a great. And what I love about this, and that's why I wanted you on the show, Neal. It was worth the wait. Is the authenticity and the passion and the vigor. Like, you don't come across like, you know a lot. Yeah, you've been successful, but you're also approachable. Like, this is real. That was a good question, William. And what was the second part of your question, William?
Sure. It's the over the years, again, you've hired and interviewed, at this point you probably need to stop counting, but what's the the absolute toughest candidate question you've ever been faced with?
Toughest candidate question.
Good question, William.
I literally last year, the execs, when I was coming through, they said, what do we ask you? You are the master of interviewing. What is there a question we can ask you?
Oh, that's
you don't
Jedi.
know. Right? That was totally Jedi mind tricking. I was like, ooh, I like that, But let me go back to the candidate side. I do have to think about that for a minute, because a lot of the times when the really good prepared interviewers will do their due diligence on the organization, and they'll actually ask you, i.e. me, numbers. If it's a public company, numbers on the public, how are things going with that? How are things going in the business units? You have so much gross profit, and what's your percentage that you want to maintain at, right? They'll ask me that. So we get in recruiting, we get asked financial questions, we get asked comp questions, we get asked all sorts of questions. I'll keep kind of reverting back to that one, where a lot of MBAs, we were going up against McKinsey, Bain, BCG, getting those highly educated MBAs coming out of school. And it's a lot around the financial questions so obviously I got to know them. You can only say so much when you're at a public company, right? But they tend to dig in a little bit more than that. Before it was, hey, you guys have filed an S1. S1 is your intent to go public, IPO, right? Those are the two companies, little smaller companies that I tried. And one filed an S1, the other one didn't. And Tell me more about the outstanding shares. Okay, you're offering options, not RSUs, restricted stock units. You're offering an option to buy the stock at a certain strike price or a certain price, right? And so how many outstanding shares are there? 22 million. Okay, so basically you're only offering me 0.002%. And it's like, I don't know, am I? It's so know your data, people, know the numbers, because I'm telling you, you will get asked those questions. You will. And those are the only ones. I mean, I truly
That's a good answer.
let me flip to the corporate side. You know, they asked me and I said, well, ask me about how successful I've been out of all the places that I've been. Ask me my percentage of success. I mean, it is high, but it's not perfect. It can't be perfect. And there's a couple of business leaders out there that I really don't care for, but they're right when they say this. Oh gosh, where I was going. I always use the name, so I have to say the name in my head and then talk about it. All right. I pulled a total Robin Williams and I forgot where I was going with this. So
No problem.
looking at the question. All right, I got it back. Looking at the question and looking at that percentage and making sure that one, you know your data, but number two, as I'm going through here, and I said, I'm not perfect. I can't be perfect because, you know, like you mentioned earlier, you got to break some eggs to do this. And innovation, you can't be innovative unless you fail. Don't be afraid to fail, you know?
Yeah.
And so that was
Good.
one question that he had asked. And I said, that's a great question. I don't know of one. I really don't. I'm not being arrogant, cocky, or confident or anything else. I just don't know of one. I haven't been stumped in so long. But I mean, that one would have been, you know, okay, that would have been something that made me think, you know.
I heard a guy I was talking to, and I may be repeating myself so just say stop if I am. Stop. Okay. But this guy was saying his, and I'm gonna land the plane. I have two more questions and then we'll cut it. But I'm gonna give context to my question, and just to land the plane on the interviewing question. His question was, what's your favorite TV show? And I said, gosh, that's great, because it's probably really disarming and really, then because you touched on something earlier. I think it's very powerful. It's worth restating, and that is, have a story, have an angle, have a direction, have an end game, have in your mind, what does success look like at the end of this exchange with Neal or with whomever the object of your interest is. So, and don't tell me what you think I want to hear. Tell me what you think or what it is, because the truth, to your point, it may be wrong, but at least the guy running through the wall is a perfect example. I mean, clearly dude believed in something. I mean, he ran through a wall for it. So that's very powerful, far more powerful than me trying to guess or presume what I think you want to hear and have you go, dude, that was not, so that's good. And back to the TV show, he said, then if they say 6 feet under, which I don't know what that show is, he goes, that they're not a fit. Like, his whole point was, it wasn't to disarm him, it was to find out what the show was and if there was some connection, because you can tell. And some people don't watch TV anymore. In any case, what are some things? I would love to know your knockout question, your favorite interview question, and then just a couple of don'ts that strike you. And again, just at a high level with people that are trying to engage with your employer, whether it's through a resume, an email, a phone screen. What are some don'ts, aside from, do I have to take a drug test, and how much money does it pay?
That doesn't matter anymore. Back in the day,
getting more complicated right there. Just
exactly.
Okay, well, let's keep it on the lens of how can we add value and help people up their game.
Yep. So do knockout questions. I can't remember your first one, so you had to repeat that one. But the knockout questions, for me, it's usually around culture, because if you get to me, I need to. And my mom's the master. You mentioned Jedi mind. I use that term all the time, Jedi mind trick, with my mom, because she. Now understand, my father was a Marine, but he died. He was killed by a drunk driver when I was very young. And so mom raised 3 kids by herself, and she was the first woman manager in the late 70s at GMAC. And she is the toughest person I know, period. And she will still to this day grab me by the ear, smack me in the back of the head, because, her husband was a Marine, and that's the way they did things back then, And so if yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, you use your manners, and always. And so the knockout questions for me are more around, when you come to me, it's not a Jedi mind trick, but I want to hear the story. Tell me your story. And if you're crisp and concise, okay, they know their shit. I mean, they know their stuff. If they kind of hem, haw, and gosh, geez, yeah, no, be crisp, be concise on your story. That's more of a knockout theme for me, right? And I only because I want to see who they are. At the end of the day, I want to see. I'm trying. They're prepared for questions, and I say, tell your story. And I want to see how crisp their story is. I want to see how their story is, and then go, okay, yeah, Andrew, yep. We'd work really well together because of what he said when he was at this company and how he drove this and da, right? And even if it's somebody from my team and the younger folks, coming out of college, they don't, just make your story crisp. Yeah, I was part of this fraternity, sorority. I did this on this in this leadership thing, and it led to this in my networking capabilities. Okay, great. You can code C++, Ruby, Flash, whatever it is, right? That's awesome. But tell me the story of how you got there. And it kind of puts people a little bit more at ease, which is what I want. I want to see them. I want to see the authentic them, right? It's kind of like me. The audience here is getting the raw me. You wanted the raw me. This is the raw me. When I go into executive meetings, even kill. You got to have gravitas. You got to know how to turn that switch and turn it quick and turn it off and be, you just have to be. On the East Coast, it's more prevalent to be more, buttoned up than it was on the West Coast. But I mean, like this is my suit now. I used to have to wear a suit all the time, and hats, no way. Oh my gosh. But yeah, I mean, it's really a knockout phrase for me.
That's good. And then and I think you answered it. It was more some of the things that are red flags for you. And I think you covered that pretty well. Yeah. All right. Well, we're at that part of the show, and you kind of covered it already with the running through the wall thing. But if you do have kind of a salacious, irreverent kind of, because my experience, but you have so much experience with HR, and you're right. You're either, lighting a fire or putting out a fire, but it all stops at HR, and not all of it's, puppies and rainbows. A lot of it is like, did that really happen? And we've had, people bring their parents. So do you have a great interviewing or awkward HR story that you would care to share with the audience?
That can beat running through a wall? I don't know.
Okay, well then let's leave it there.
Pretty tough.
That was good. Let's not.
I don't have any. Well, I mean, I've got some. Actually, you mentioned earlier, and I'm not going to end on a sad note. But I mean, we are burdened with a lot of things within HR and the knowledge that we have, and you have to respect people's privacy and things like that. Definitely want to say that when you start climbing the ladder, when you start going in any roles, even if you're trusted with this information, don't tell your peers, don't tell your colleagues. It's something that's with you. Be respectful. Don't have my mom come and smack you in the back of the head. You don't want that. Just be respectful. I'm trying to think of a funny one because I want to end on a really funny note. But I mean, the running through the wall.
Running through the wall is pretty good.
It's still my tops because I don't know what I said. I don't know what set the guy off. I really don't. I was just like, dude, you don't have the skill set. Wham! What do you mean? It just straight out.
I'll be thinking about this for a week as to
I don't know what set him
how he
off.
didn't hit something like
electrical,
the electricity, plumbing, something.
Exactly.
Like how he made it through.
That
unscathed.
might be the best one so far, you guys. William, that beats the chick that she got up, stood up to do something, Neal. Somehow her chair rolled back, and when she sat back down, her jaw hit the bloody nose.
It was
William's
like a
okay, well, let's have a look at that resume. Out on the floor.
Wow.
Wow. That's pretty bad.
That's not exactly true. But in any case, that's a great way, and I was gonna ask you, hey, okay, I got this from Lewis Howes. Okay, you can only say one thing to leave everybody with, but you just did it. The be respectful. Just show up, own your story, and be respectful. And I also, I'll just pile on a little bit because I think we all know this. Sometimes people come in and they really want the job. There's no lack of zeal or passion, and it's just not a fit. And you have to tell them no. And they don't know it, but you're doing them a favor, and they think you're rejecting them. And so audience sometimes knows God's ultimate protection. And I just think at nothing else, audience, look, here is a great example of what is on the other side of I always say this, Neal, and I think it's worth saying every time, which is why I always say it, is you are as invested, probably more invested than hiring the person than they are. And they think, oh no, it's not. And it's kind of a mindset thing almost. And so if it's not already abundantly clear how much Neal cares, and that manifests itself at every turn and every exchange, whether it's an email or a resume or an application or a phone screen, like he wants you to be successful, and he will go out of his way to make you successful, even at the expense of your time, your effort, your energy. And that's the impact I love about the show. So thank you very much.
No, for sure. You're welcome. And thank you guys. I will tell you this. I had a recruiting coordinator just leave me. My peer in the industry, I won't say who, I'll tell you later. I called him up and I actually sent him a chat. Andrew knows this, on our Slack channel. I sent him a chat through Slack channel and I said, hey, got somebody's coming your way. She's awesome. I wish I had something more for her. I wish I could have accelerated her faster. I couldn't. She's coming over to you. Please take care of her. Or I told her I'll bring her right back. And at a recruiting coordinator level, how many VPs of TA are going to do that for their people? She's leaving to go to a competitor.
All of the successful ones, my friend. All of the good ones will do it.
Do it, people. Do that. Be that invested.
That's the currency that you have, Neal, and that's, I think, what makes you successful. And you've done that with and for me on both sides of that stick. So producer Bev, did you want to dip in your oar one more time?
I don't have a question per se, but I do admire your 360-degree style. I don't like the expression "we eat our own dog food" because dog food is gross, but
it is.
You are pretty high up on the food chain at this point in your career, but you also seem like, oh, somebody spilled something, where's the broom? And you would be that guy. So I think that's in great part.
I clean up. I saw a coordinator one day, sorry, not a coordinator, admin one day, and I was cleaning up a spill. It was in the hallway, literally. And she's like, I'll get that. And I'm like, please, I got it.
Nice.
Yeah. I like
All
that.
right. Well, so Neal, I can't thank you enough. How can people find you or get in touch with you, Neal?
Through Andrew Gardiner. Let me give you his phone number. His phone number is.
So well played.
They can get me through. And hey, look, Andrew's tried to get me on here for weeks now, and it's just TA Suite, ATS implementation. It's a lot of things going on right now. The easiest way, of course, is to look me up on LinkedIn. Shoot me an in message if you want to do that. That's the easiest, and I do check it. It comes straight to my inbox right beside me. So
put it in the position in the channel description below, and like and subscribe. And Neal, I can't thank you enough. So with that, we'll let you go. Like and subscribe. Please send in questions, and we'll keep bringing you this top shelf content. Thanks, Neal. Everybody have a great weekend.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for watching this episode of Career Keynotes. For more killer content, please like and subscribe to our channel. We welcome all comments and questions and are grateful for any input regarding future content, topics, and guests. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode.